Welcome back to my channel. This one is a special one. I got my main man with me, DJ Red Handed, aka Red Guy Dope, aka Rob England. How you doing, man?
I'm doing great, man.
So recently, Red Handed gifted me for my birthday. It was an excellent birthday gift. The Weiss Mastering Suite by Softtube.
Weiss Mastering Suite.
Weiss is Weiss. Yeah, man, we totally in European mode right now. But I just want to give you my first impressions. Red was to share his first impressions after about me having it for 2 weeks, him having it for about a month, and he did all this hyping me up beforehand. So what Red was telling me is that it was the most craziest
transparent is how I describe it.
Okay. Yep.
I was immediately able to get real loud volume out of it without like hearing clipping. Like most plugins, you get like immediate distortion, immediate clipping when you push too hard. With these, you can like really squash it and like and still get something out of it. Granted, you don't always want to squash it, but
yeah, And leading up to that, while he was telling me all this, I was toying with the idea of using some better paid for plugins, right? So I had the Fab Filter limiter. I tried that. I also was using Ableton's limiter a lot. Tried a couple other different things. I had the Brainworks Master Desk for a second. So I've been like sticking my foot out there and dabbling in the water, sticking my toe in the water to see what's what with limiters / compressors for a minute. So after hearing what he said, and after my former fails and trials with those other plugins,
it's still gonna happen.
I wasn't that hopeful. But when I got my hands on this Weiss mastering, especially the maximizer, that was really the first thing that I just used straight out the box, and it was beautiful, bro.
Yeah, like you can't usually hit a brick wall limiter that hard. Would you say that one mix you sent me was getting like -17 of gain reduction or something like that?
It was getting somewhere. It was past -6. It was like -9.
-9.
-9 of gain reduction, and it's like the mix didn't get thin. I didn't hear any part that was clipping or overdriven or like distorted. Also, I still had all the same dynamic space in the mix that I started with when I bypassed the maximizer. One thing that when I did my research, I was looking at, a lot of people talk about the plugin, and they said that the Weiss Mastering Suite, because it started off as a digital piece of hardware in the early 80s, right? That it's not like a emulation. The plugin isn't an emulation of hardware. It's a one-to-one, like the same thing, like a system copy. Because it wasn't ever analog in the first place, it's always been digital. Right. So they wrote the code for computers.
Yeah, which is insane because it's a $10,000 piece of hardware. So yeah. I think the plugin goes for like $350 or something. And yeah, I mean it sounds amazing. I don't have experience with the original version, but
me neither.
Yeah, this feels like I'm using a hardware. It's not like Waves or not knocking any of them, but it's just with plugins you expect a certain amount of digitaliness.
Yeah.
New word of the day.
What I expect with plugins is that I have to, whatever I have in mind, I'm gonna have to overshoot that with the knobs to be able to accomplish it.
Exactly.
With this, it's not that.
Yeah.
It was super responsive. Especially, I noticed the responsiveness when I used what's the name of the DS1 MK3. Pull that up real quick.
Oh yeah, so the DS1 MK3 that's the $10,000 unit.
That's the one.
Yeah.
Right. So when I use that, and it's like I assume that people when I watch tutorials about it, they basically said that the DS1 MK3, the flagship compressor limiter, and people really use it as a de-esser in a lot of cases, which I think that's probably where the DS in the name comes from. When I ran it and these presets that they have on it are amazing. Like, I'm new to the software, so I'm not going to act like I know that much about the technical side of it, but just going off of presets and using different presets in different situations. I ran some serial compression with using the medium limiter, like they have hard, soft, and medium. I used the medium limiter on one compressor, and then right after that, I used the upward expansion. So with the medium limiter, it's like because of how much bass I had in my track, it rounded everything off in relation to the bass, which made it a little bit too warm. So then I put on the upward expansion compressor right after that, doubled those compressors, like serial compression, and got it all back.
Right.
All my high ends. And I didn't get it back like with volume. I got it back with clarity and space.
Exactly. And yeah, you're able to kind of bring all those in-between spaces up without sacrificing too much of your pop or your whatever it is hitting the limiter. It's also a good teaching tool. Like, I'm learning a lot more about my mixes from using this particular set of plugins just because of how responsive they are from a numbers standpoint, the grids, and it gives you a lot of feedback to work with.
And with the compressor's release, I've never seen a compressor's release set up like this.
Oh yeah, so the release is actually has separate releases. It has a fast release and a slow release, and then it has an average knob in between them. So you can kind of ride the peaks of your mix as well as have control over the compression that happens in between the space as well. It's kind of how I've been approaching it.
Yeah, what I'm really loving about the plugin is that, or about the collection of plugins, is that with the compressor limiter, you could really hone in on a single spot in the mix, not even in the master, using this on individual tracks in the mix, and work on that without too much crossover, without any crossover really.
Yeah.
To the frequencies outside of the filter.
Yeah, and it's stripped down, so it's like hard to mess up. Like, there's no makeup gain or anything like that. You just have a threshold, and you can either compress or expand, specific frequencies.
You also get a 2-band de-esser, which is very cool, especially for the things that I like to do with auxiliary percussion. Sit that on my auxiliary percussion bus track, and the things I like to do with the flips. So when I use acapellas, especially if they're like unofficial, they're not studio acapellas, like DIY acapellas, they're normally filled with a lot of artifacts in the high end. So what I use is the de-esser, and I can put one band of the de-esser to actually de-ess the vocals. Boop, right there, like probably around 7K.
You're talking about on your master track.
I'm talking about on the acapella track. On the acapella track. I could use one band to de-ess just the vocals and another band to de-ess the artifacts without me having to roll off the top end and muffle out the vocal.
Right.
So I could literally compress the artifacts and reduce them that way.
Yeah, and it's very versatile. Like, it works on individual tracks. I've used it in a couple recording sessions with artists and stuff, like using it just as a straight vocal de-esser, and it works amazing. Yep. And then using it on the master track, I've never really thought about using a de-esser on a master track, coming from my perspective. Yeah. But it actually, if you target the frequencies correctly and you use your ears beforehand and kind of assess it, it can be very useful for sure.
Yeah, so one thing that I've noticed is that CPU usage, right? How much of your computer speed it eats up. You're definitely going to want to mix your tracks and master your tracks in 2 different sessions, or write your mix to one track. Yeah. And then just master that one, because these plugins are powerful. They're not for kids. They're real.
Yeah. Yeah, if you haven't already started printing your mixes, doing this is kind of, it might force you to do it. It's almost like working with analog equipment. But
it forced me to. It forced me to print my mix. Yeah. I definitely had to print my mix if the computer was bugging out, even though I still bounced it out and it was beautiful. But speaking practically, I'm not going to be able to work like that. So I've had to mix in one session and then bounce that out, or print the mix and then master.
It's good for your ears. It's just like good practice in general. Like, you should separate the mixing process from the mastering process if you can. Come to it with fresh ears, a separate mind frame.
It makes you move in the mix way more confidently too. Like, if since you're printing this out, it's like you don't want to keep on ping ponging back and forth between the print and the mix. So it's like you got to get things right. It's like I'm relying less on my master to fix issues.
Yeah, and I know we all get into that hole where it's like, oh, I got to fix the bass on my mix. Now I have to change the EQ on the master, and you go through all this cycle of bad decisions. While you're toying with a mix. It's like, This forces you like, did I do this correctly? Let me listen to it. Okay, it's good. Now I can enter mastering phase, and then there's a limit to what you can correct in mastering. Like these plugins, I think we can agree, are not gonna save your mix at all.
But they will enhance a good mix. They
Yes.
will take it to the next level, and the loudness that you're going to get out the maximizer. Turn down your monitors, turn down your headphones, whatever you're monitoring through, because it will scare you how good and loud the mix will become. I mean, the master will become after you throw this maximizer on it.
Yeah.
It'll scare you a little bit. Like, you'll be scared by, like, for me, it's just like the sheer loudness. I was like, this can't be right.
Yeah.
This can't be right. I can't still be not peaking. I have to be peaking.
Yeah. But no, you hitting,
I wasn't.
Hitting right there.
I wasn't.
Good.
And the reduction it gave me was beautiful. I also started putting that maximizer on wide.
I like the wide setting a lot.
Yo,
if you do a lot of panning, the wide, it's like you can really smash it, and it's like, I don't know. So for some reason, I always have some in it. Like my right channel is always like inherently like a little bit more crowded, so it kind of can even your stereo field out a lot in like a really nice way.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. I always talk about the percussion. Auxiliary percussion.
Yeah, because you're panning.
I'm panning this way. I'm panning that way. I hit it with the wide, and it gave it the body. I was explaining to you a couple days ago. Like, it gave it this presence where it's like it wasn't taking over the mix. It was still kind of like omnipresent. It was there for sure, but it wasn't harsh and it wasn't like annoying whatsoever.
Yeah, and I remember when we were toying with the brick wall limiter from Fab Filter, we noticed that there was like, it added like a square, it added edges to the shape of the sound, and like this, we're able to like keep a very warm sound. We're able to maintain the roundness to everything, which is important.
And it still sounds really open.
Yeah.
Really open. It doesn't sound hyper compressed. Like the parallel mixing and the transparent, it's crazy. We've talked enough about this. These are our first impressions. We'll be back in a couple months. Let's give it 2-3 months.
2-3 months.
Yeah, after we get some speed up on this and really figure them out and give you our in-depth review. But yeah, this is our first impressions. We're loving it so far. Great job to the folks over there at Sawtube. This white stuff is crazy. You guys killed it. Peace.